listening to Just Pod, Baby, a Las Vegas Raiders podcast brought to you by silverandblacktoday.com. And now your host, Evan Groat.
Let's go, Raider Nation. Thank you, of course, for joining me on another episode of Just Pod, Baby, part of the Silver and Black Today Media Group. There is some news I'd like to get to this week with you. We are entering that dead period in the league. Not a whole lot going on right now, especially with teams holding virtual mini camps and rookie OTAs and whatnot. Not a whole lot to be reported on. But the big talk in the news around the NFL this week was the release of the schedules. I will get to some of my thoughts on the Raiders' 2020 schedule in just a moment. So there was some other news surrounding the team this week. They did bring in two new players, running back Devonta Booker, as well as veteran cornerback Prince Amukamara. And you don't want to miss, later in the show, I will be joined by Raiders cornerback Isaiah Johnson. But we begin this week with some league news. First, Commissioner Roger Goodell sent out a memo to all 32 teams reminding them that team facilities are to remain closed until May 29th. The original date was set for May 15th. Teams were planning to be open May 15th. Obviously, that date has been pushed back. And in his memo, he highlighted 3 points of criteria that he believes need to be met in order for teams to open their facilities. And I do want to highlight and touch on some of those. Number one, that reopening is consistent with sound medical and public health guidance. Number two, the reopening is permitted under government regulations. And number three, that reopening occurs in a way that respects principles of competitive equity. So what does that all mean? Well, it could mean that it's going to be a while before we see teams open their facilities. Veteran minicamps will most likely not take place this year, just being realistic. The good news is, however, there still is time. Let's not hit the panic button yet. Teams are continuing to, as I said, conduct their virtual meetings and workouts. This week, rookies were having their workouts. Last week, it was veterans. So, teams are still getting some work done. It's not ideal, but the mental preparation and mental repetition is an important part of the game as well. However, at some point, though, we would like to see the players get on the practice field, especially players that are new to the team, free agents and rookies. Your wide receivers getting timing down with the quarterbacks. That's very important stuff. And it's the thing you have to keep in mind is all teams are going to be going through this. So there is no competitive disadvantage. It's something that all teams throughout the league are going to have to deal with. Now, it's highly likely that coaches do not see these players in person until training camp, which is late July. So start wrapping your head around that now. It's probably going to happen. I've heard some other coaches like Sean Payton with the Saints. I've heard him talk about that. So I really believe that's probably going to be the case for all the teams. Now, if you go on our website, silverandblacktoday.com, you will see that Scott Gilbranson put out a piece this week discussing the possibility of moving training camp from Napa Valley to Nevada. And the reason why he presented this idea is because Los Angeles County, I'm sure you saw, has extended their stay-at-home orders for another 3 months. That's into August now. And he also reported that all signs point to other counties in Northern California most likely following suit. So this is something that could really slow things down for the state of California. Now, it's far too early to make the call on whether it's wise to move training camp right now, but certainly it's something worth looking into, a contingency plan if California remains closed. Scott also added that the team's new headquarters that's being built in Henderson will be completed in just over a month. So the facility has a mix of 3 outdoor fields and 2 indoor fields. So certainly it would serve very efficiently as a host for training camp if needed. It's obviously a very fluid situation, which is worth monitoring going forward. Now, the next bit of news that I wanted to get to is, as I mentioned, the Raiders did bring in 2 new players this week, running back Devonta Booker and cornerback Prince Amukamara. I'm going to start with Booker. little bit of information on him. He is entering his 5th year in the league. He was drafted by the Broncos back in 2016. And look, I don't think there is a lot to be excited about here with the signing of Booker. He was never able to win a starting job in Denver. His best season was his rookie year. I think he had 621 yards rushing, and then he's never had more than 300 or 400 in a season. I don't think he offers much at all as a runner, and I don't think that's why they brought him in, to be honest. His biggest asset is in the passing game, and unless he's able to outshine guys like Jalen Richard and rookie Lynn Bowden for a role, I don't even know if he makes the team. That's just my opinion. So maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I think he is a long shot to make the roster right now. As far as the signing of Prince Amukamara, I believe this comes down to solely adding a veteran to the group. The cornerback room is extremely young, very talented, but really young. I was thinking about all the players that they have at cornerback, and outside of guys like LaMarcus Joyner, who's really a slot corner, and Nevin Lawson, you really don't have a lot of guys who have any starting experience. Trayvon Mullen started a few games last year, but then you have guys like Arnett, the rookie, Amik Robertson, the rookie, Isaiah Johnson, who did not play much at all last season, Keyshawn Nixon. So just a really, really young group there for the Raiders. And now I think about the starting positions, and if I was to sit here and come up with a depth chart right now for defense, I think opposite of Mullen, I think the coaches are hoping that Arnett wins the job. But if not a guy like Arnett, maybe it's a guy like Isaiah Johnson who can rise up and maybe steal the job. But if for some reason both of those guys falter and just are not looking real good out of camp, then you have an insurance policy with a guy like Amukamara who has plenty of experience in the league. He has 99 career starts. So again, I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying the additions at all, but these are guys that I'm not expecting to come in and contribute by any means. I just want to see them first. Let's just see them make the team. Okay, I'm going to step aside real quick for a break, and when we return, I will give you my take on the Raiders' schedule in 2020. All right, so the 2020 schedule was released, and I've seen a lot of people out there giving their win-loss predictions for the season, and I know that's all fun to do, but I'm not going to do that here today. Of course, I do have a number in mind that I would like to see them get to, but rather than going through a week-by-week prediction and giving you my thoughts on each game, I just wanted to touch on a few things that came to my attention when I first saw the schedule. I know me personally, the first thing that I was looking for is, when is the Chiefs game at Arrowhead? That was the first thing that really popped into my head, and I was very pleased to see that this year it will be played much earlier than it normally has been. Week 5, October 11th to be exact, and thanks to our friend Josh Dubois, who was a guest on the show just a few weeks ago, he pointed out on Twitter a fact that I found to be very interesting. This is the first time since 2013 that the Raiders are traveling to Kansas City before the month of December. So Derek Carr will not have to worry about those cold temperatures and the struggles that he has had in those games. Now, speaking of cold weather games, something else that stood out to me, really only two games that could potentially be seen as cold weather games, and that is Week 13 at the Jets at the Meadowlands, which that could be nasty in December, and the season finale at Denver in January. So they do have that going for them as well. Now, I think the next big thing that stood out, for me anyways, was the 4 primetime games. All at Allegiant Stadium. The NFL obviously wants to showcase this brand new stadium. It's beautiful. In their brand new market, a city like Las Vegas, where they really want to generate a lot of buzz. I think they missed out on that opportunity with the draft. So they really want to make sure they're showcasing Las Vegas and this new market. They will feature the Raiders versus the Saints in Week 2 on Monday Night Football. Again in Week 7 versus the Bucs on Sunday Night Football. Week 11 versus the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and then again, the Chargers will come to town on Thursday Night Football late in the season in Week 15. So I think they're doing a nice job there of really, getting that brand out there in Las Vegas. Now, we all know the NFL is a year-to-year league. It's week-to-week as well. So I don't want to sit here and say, oh, they got a tough stretch to begin the season and they got an easy stretch to end the season. But I do at least want to mention, because I do think it's worth mentioning, the strength of schedule, which, of course, is all based on records from the previous season. But they are ranked 21st in strength of schedule in 2020. And they will face what appears to be a difficult stretch of games. Again, take that with a grain of salt. 4 of the first 5 games are against 2019 playoff teams. We know that things could change. For example, one of the teams that they're going to face is the Patriots, who are now without Tom Brady. So while they did make the playoffs last year, you really can't look too much into those stats and those numbers because things do fluctuate from year to year. So again, right now, things look like it could be tricky out of the gate, but I would not be shocked to see things change. Maybe it's an injury. Who knows? Things happen all the time. Now, also in the schedule, I don't see any travel that seems extremely challenging or outrageous like last year. They will not travel overseas. There's no international games. They're not going to Mexico City. They will travel. They do have back-to-back East Coast games late in the season, weeks 12 and 13 against the Falcons and the Jets. I do wonder if Gruden will opt to stay out east. To me, that would be the smart move. He did do this last year in a similar situation, but I do believe he has said in the past that he prefers to come back home. But I don't recall the exact reason why he decided to stay 2 weeks on the East Coast last year, but they did do that. So that is something to keep an eye on as we get closer to the season. I'm sure it's something he'll be asked about at some point. I do really like the final 4-game stretch, 3 of those games being at home. And on paper right now, they appear to be 4 games that are winnable versus the Colts, Chargers, Dolphins, and Broncos. But again, I recall having this same conversation or outlook on the schedule last year, and I remember specifically one game that stood out in my head was the Jacksonville game that was late in the season. As we know, that was the last home game in Oakland, which they ended up losing. It was a tight game, and they ended up losing. So again, you can try to make these predictions all you want, but when the season comes around, it's week to week, so you just never know. But it is important that the Raiders do have these final games at home, because if they are in the playoff hunt like they were last season, playing critical, crucial games at home would bode very well for the Raiders. Also, a little personal news here in regards to the schedule. I did purchase tickets to Week 4 against the Buffalo Bills. Now, I do live in Western New York. Those of you who don't know, I'm a Western New York resident, grew up more so in Central New York, but my wife grew up in a Bills fan. She's from Buffalo, and so I'm dragging her out to Las Vegas with me to see our teams do battle. So we took care of the plane tickets, and we're extremely excited about the opportunity to go out there to Vegas. We love the city. We've been out there a few times before. We just hope, like many of you, that fans are allowed in these games at some point. There is one other game on the schedule that I am planning on attending, and that would be the road game at Cleveland in Week 8. Now, for me, where I live, Cleveland is a nice, easy, straight shot, 3 hours. It's a quick, easy drive. I've done it a couple of other times for other reasons. But, so I've been looking into tickets for that one as well. Now, just a few other things in regards to the schedule, and that is from a betting perspective. I think we all know betting is a big part of the NFL. Vegas has the Raiders with a number of 7.5 for total wins. So if you're thinking about making any futures bets, 7.5 wins for the Raiders. And if you look at the way too early week by week lines that are out there, the Westgate has some lines out there. The Raiders are favored in only 3 games, and I think that's a little bit low, to be honest. I think Week 10, I know Week 10 versus Denver, they were favored. Week 15 versus the Chargers, and then Week 16 versus the Dolphins. Those are the 3 games that they were favored in. Now, Vegas is not really showing the home team any love. There were a couple weeks where they were also considered, they were pick'ems. Week 1, for example, against the Panthers, that's a pick'em right now. And things are going to change between now and when these games are played. But personally, I would have thought they would have been favored in a couple more games. And really, if you want my opinion, I think now is a good time to get in there and try to bet that over. I do think the over is it's a good bet right now. So overall, my final thoughts on the schedule, I think the schedule looks a lot better than it did last season. Obviously, they don't have any horrible stretches like they did last season where they're going 49 days without a home game. They don't have to go overseas, as I mentioned. There's no London game. There's no Mexico City game. And all that stuff helps. That's a lot of wear and tear in the body, all that travel. It does look manageable, and they do have that stretch of home games to end the last quarter of the season, which I really like, and I think that could be a big, crucial point for them in the season. So, with the added wild card spot this year, I really don't see why right now. Now we're talking into only May, and things are really optimistic right now. Everyone's very high on the moves that were made and the additions that were made, but I don't see why right now the Raiders can't make a run at the playoffs. So those are my thoughts on the schedule, and I'm going to take a quick break. And when I return, you don't want to miss it, my interview with Raiders cornerback Isaiah Johnson. Raiders fans always want to know the latest news about the Silver and Black. To get the latest news, views, and Raiders content from Las Vegas, visit silverandblacktoday.com. It's the only independent Raiders news site based in Las Vegas. With analysis, opinions, and breaking news, silverandblacktoday.com is your source for Las Vegas Raiders content. Visit silverandblacktoday.com. All right, we bring in our guest for this week, and that is Las Vegas Raiders cornerback Isaiah Johnson. Isaiah, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, Isaiah, thank you very much for joining the show. We appreciate you giving us some of your time. And being that the Silver and Black Today is a Las Vegas-based website and news source, I got to ask, have you made the move to Nevada yet? Are you all settled in out in Las Vegas?
Unfortunately, I have not yet. The week that I was supposed to go out there and get that done, the whole COVID-19 thing hit, and it kind of delayed that plan. But as soon as this all lifts up and we all get the opportunity to move around a little bit, I'm going to go out there and find a spot.
That's good to hear. Now, at any point, have you been able, again, prior to all this COVID-19, did you get an opportunity to get out there and take a look at the new stadium? I'm going to be completely honest with you, and as bad as it may sound, I have not been to Vegas in the past 3-4 years. The last time I went was in college for the Vegas Bowl. But other than that, I have not been out there. So I've only seen pictures and videos of the stadium. I haven't been out there to see it. Yeah, no problem with that. Yeah, I agree. It looks beautiful from the pictures and whatnot. Now, speaking of Las Vegas and the new stadium, Allegiant Stadium, seeing that new palace that you're going to be playing in, and in a city like Las Vegas, with the upgraded practice facilities that you're going to be working in Henderson, how excited are you? And does it give you a little extra juice, during those workouts and when you're preparing for the upcoming season?
Absolutely. Just to know what we're coming into and all the things that we have that are being set up in Vegas for us, the new facility, the new stadium, the new town, the new crowd. I feel like this is the biggest opportunity. This is one of the best opportunities you can have as an NFL football player, just to have this opportunity to come play in a new city in front of a bunch of new people with a new market. And I feel like just me on a daily as I'm working out, I'm just prepared to go out there and see what's new and what's to come. So I want to go see the stadium. I want to go see the new facility. I just want to see the city just to get an idea of who I'll be playing for to catch the vibe of where I'll be.
Well, I know they're really excited to have you, that's for sure. Now, I want to go back to last season, if you don't mind. You were a 4th-round selection in the draft, and, you're relatively new to the position of cornerback. I'm not sure if everyone is aware that you're a converted wide receiver who only played 1 year of cornerback in college. Anyhow, your rookie year did not get off to the start that I'm sure you were hoping for. After creating a really strong buzz about yourself through training camp, you were doing a really good job there. You did suffer the concussion and facial fracture in week 1 of the preseason, and then you ended up on the IR. You were able to come back from that late in the season, but what I would like to discuss with you is, did you learn anything from that whole experience that you believe helps you, as you move forward into this upcoming season?
Absolutely, 100%. I would say that me breaking my face and getting the concussion, it was unfortunate to break my face and get the concussion at the time that I did, just because I was getting a good momentum swing, training camp and getting ready to go into the season. And when it all happened, it was kind of a shocker, but I feel like it happened for the best, because throughout that process, I got the opportunity to internalize all the things I need to know for the knowledge of the game. And when you can throw that into, the game, and you can use your mental before you use your physical, I feel like that only helps you become a better football player. So me having that time to sit out for 8 weeks to understand the game, to listen, to pick up tips, keys, and everything, I feel like that helped me in my progression to go into year 2 now that we finished, my first year.
Now, was that the first time in your career that you've experienced any kind of long-term, injury like that, or have you dealt with this type of thing before in the past?
Unfortunately, I've never had nothing like that happen to me before. I've never had a prolonged injury. I apologize. I've never had nothing happen like that. And to be honest with you, that's a first. That's a first injury to be, sitting out for a while just to get hit in the face like that. That was a tough injury to deal with.
Yeah, the whole thing was just kind of a freak injury. It was, obviously nothing you could have done about that. Just a total freak accident. Now, when last season ended, as you headed into your first full off season now as a pro in the league, did you think about like a specific set of goals that you had for yourself, that with areas of your game, or maybe even from discussions that you had with your coaches about things that you would like to improve on for the next season? So
you saying things that my coach wants me to improve on?
Yeah. Are there any areas? Yeah, exactly. Are there any areas where you think you want to improve on?
Absolutely. There's always room for improvement, and I relish in that, just opportunity to get better as a football player, because I just love to be the best that I can be. And my coach just told me, you're a long, fast, good corner that can play for us, that can play man corner for us. We just need you to hone in on consistency and your technique. And I've really been doing that. And it's not something I work on weekly or every now and then. I work on it every day, every little aspect that you can think of in man coverage, as far as at the line or off coverage or my eyes or the way I transition and move my body. I work these things every day just so it could be second nature to me. And these are some of the things that my coach asked me to work on so I can be better for this team. And I plan on bringing that to Vegas with me, when it's time to compete to try to win a Super Bowl.
That's a great attitude, and we do see the work you're putting in out there. I saw some of the clips you had on social media, so it's good to see that you're out there working hard and doing everything you can to get better. Isaiah Johnson, cornerback of the Las Vegas Raiders, joins us here on Just Pod Baby. Isaiah, so this past weekend we had our first virtual NFL draft. I'm sure you saw it. As you know, the coronavirus pandemic has really just kind of shut down all facets of life. One of the obstacles for NFL teams and players like yourself is having to prepare for the season while maintaining that social distance that we've all heard of. So I know the Raiders are one of the teams who began what they're calling the virtual offseason program. Can you explain to us what that's like going to look like? Have you heard from the coaches at all?
Absolutely. Honestly, all it is we're just meeting through voice chat, and we're just doing going over all the installs for everything together. So everybody's just on one big, almost like FaceTime. We use Zoom, and everybody's just doing a big voice chat. And my coach does, I think, a screen recording where he shows different clips, different plays, different things, and we just go over everything, and we just really talk about all the coverages things that we need to correct, things from last year, introducing ourselves to new guys, just trying to get the most out of it that we can. That way we could be one step ahead.
Yeah, obviously that's going to be a challenge for all the teams throughout the league. So it's just something that you guys are just going to have to deal with at this point. Now, continuing to look ahead to the 2020 season, a couple of weeks ago, your general manager, Mike Mayock, held a conference call with members of the media, and he spoke very highly of you. I'm not sure if you had a chance to hear some of the things he said, but he referred to you as a guy that we cannot wait to see out there on the field. So, I'm sure you're well aware of the opportunity that you have this season to really assert yourself, to kind of pick up where you left off last season when you were gaining so much momentum through training camp before that injury occurred. This defense needs someone to step up and take that corner job opposite of Trayvon Mullen. Tell us why you feel you are ready and prepared to take that next step this year.
In all honesty, I think the biggest thing with me that helps me, and I feel like I appreciate Mr. Mayock, Coach Mayock, for stating those statements out to the media and letting them know that they're excited to see me play, and I'm excited to play. But I think the biggest thing with me, of course, you have my length, you have my speed, field intelligence, but I would say the biggest thing for me is just my will to compete. I relish in competition. I don't believe in running from competition. I believe you should jump in it every single time. And that's just what I'm going to do. And as a corner, when you're on the island, play-by-play, every play, you got to have that mentality, that savage mentality. And I feel like that's what I bring to the game. I just can't wait to do that for my team. I know it's a lot of talk in the media about the whole cornerback and all the stuff that we need, but within our team, we're focusing on, the small details of what we need to do to be a better team. And like I said, I'm working on it all offseason to be the best player that I can be for this team, and we'll just see how it all turns out whenever the season comes.
Now, as you're going into your second year, how do you feel from like a comfort standpoint? I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be, a rookie coming into this league and just being overwhelmed with all the new information, the new terminology, and the speed of the game. How are you feeling just from a comfort standpoint as you enter year two?
If I can be completely honest, I think this is it's a big step compared to last year. You come in as a rookie, and it's almost like, man, well, let me get in here and learn. Let me, take this the right way, and let me, learn from the veterans. Let me come here as humble as I can. But this year, I feel like I'm coming with a totally different attitude. Yes, still humble as ever, but at the same time, I'm as confident as can be. And that's just because I'm confident in my ability. I'm confident in the things that I know and that I've learned. And I just know what my role is to be for this team. And I know that I got to go out and execute that. And I can't do it without being confident. So that's how I'm coming this year, and that's how I'm coming for my team.
Isaiah Johnson, Las Vegas Raiders cornerback, joining us on Just Pod Baby. Isaiah, you're doing a great job. I just got two more for you real quick. You talked about competition and how competitive you are just a minute ago, and that kind of brings me to my next point here. The Raiders, and you, I'm sure you've heard about it. They drafted 2 cornerbacks this weekend, and you just spoke about it. You're a competitor, and we know that competition brings out the best in all of us. But when you see the organization make a move like that, does this give you a little bit more motivation? Does this make you work that much harder to try to show them that you are the guy for this job?
As always, of course, things like that happen, and we're happy to have all the additions that we have to this team, no matter what position, just because we want to win games. That's our prime focus. But for me, honestly, it's like a little bit more of an edge. But to me, I came with a fiery edge as soon as the season was over, just because I knew what time it was, and I expected us to go out and recruit more, talent and more help at corner, just because, that's a spot that needs to be filled. But for me, it's the same thing in my mind. I just need to go out there and play my best football. And I feel like if Isaiah can go out there and play his best football, I can get any job done that needs to be done. So I'm glad that we went and got our draft picks, our 2 corners, and our undrafted signing. Glad to have them. Can't wait for them to join the team. But as always, we just come and compete, and we just go try to win games.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, that is a very mature, team-first response there, and I really like your attitude, Isaiah. Final question here before I let you go. A couple of weeks ago, I had one of your teammates on, Alec Ingold, and he spoke about Derek Carr and praised him as a leader, and brought up the fact that, Carr is the type of guy that Ingold actually tries to emulate, especially his approach to the game. What I would like to hear from you is there anyone in the locker room that kind of mentored you, last year, or has kind of motivated you to step up your practice habits or your study habits because of how they conduct themselves both on and off the field?
It would be unfair to name one name because it's been so many people that I learned from. I feel like me as a person, yes, it's easy to take after somebody and learn from one person, but me, I'm the type of person, I'm going to learn from everybody because I feel like I can take something from each person differently and apply it to my game. So all the veteran DBs that we have, Nevin Lawson, LaMarcus Joyner, Carl Joseph from last year, who are Daryl Worley. He's a big one. Daryl Worley was a big one, too. I was really close with Daryl this past year. And Garyon Conley as well. I was really, really close with him as well. And they all just taught me something different. And they taught me, not just the corner position, but they were teaching me ways to play this game better, more efficiently. And that's something that I can appreciate, to have teammates like that and have coaches to do the same thing, because they're just trying to invest in us to be the best player that we can be. And if they're willing to give out the information, I'm willing to take it. So we'll see who else has more information to give out as this year goes on.
They might be looking up to you now, Isaiah. You're one of the veterans in that group now to some of these young guys.
Correct.
Isaiah,
it's a lot of information. It's a lot of information to be given out. So I can't wait to give it out to them.
There you go. Good team player, Isaiah. Hey, listen, I want to thank you for giving me so much of your time. We wish you good luck and good health this season. We're going to pull for you, man. You're the guy I want to see you take that job. So keep working hard. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you in the future, Isaiah.
I appreciate you, Evan. Thank you for having me on the show, and I will be talking to you again soon.
All right, we're back here on Just Pod Baby with your host, Evan Groat, for a real quick segment just to wrap this one up. Again, big thank you to Isaiah Johnson. That was a great interview there. And I got to say, I'm going to make a prediction right now, and some of you may think I'm crazy, but I think Isaiah Johnson is going to challenge for that starting cornerback job across from Trayvon Mullen. Okay, he had a great camp last year. He was playing really well. He was getting a lot of hype. And then he had that injury that really derailed his season. I think this year he picks up where he left off, and I think he's going to really challenge for that job. I think he's going to push Arnett. I really do. That's just my gut feeling. And you remember where you heard it first, okay? Right here on this show. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's show, Just Pod Baby with Evan Groat. Do me a favor, subscribe to the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll catch you next week, and as always, just win, baby.